Out of this chair.
All right, we're back. It's COMP397. That's web game programming, and it's summer 2016. It's week 13, part 2 of our broadcast. The last one, and I have to say that I forgot in my video manager. I forgot to go back and change the name. I can probably do it now, but I can probably it really should say part 1, not just broadcast. There we go. There we go. And it's because I have to blame somebody. So I have to blame Tim. I'm going to blame you today. Tim distracted me, and that's why it happened. Okay. You know, I got to blame somebody because I can't blame myself, right? All right. So, anyways, this is part 1. There's part 1. So we talked about how to make a bullet. Right, but we haven't tested it. We really need to test it out before we say it's done, right? So let's go back. Remember, we have to add a bullet class. We did that, but I can't make sure that it's even finished, right, unless I test it. So it's kind of like I got to get these two both done at the same time. And we're going to do collision with clouds. But like I said, if you look at the collision manager, we have something called player, which is not generic enough. So I got to change the collision manager. So instead of saying player, I'm going to rename this symbol so it says prime. Right? Prime another. So one is prime and the other one is the other one that I'm colliding with, right? So what I want to do is we've checked for cloud already for the other, so we can't use cloud. It means that the way we wrote our code, if I go back to my play.ts, it can't be bullet and cloud. That doesn't make any sense, right? Bullet and cloud. It's got to be cloud and bullet, right? So that way, we're going to see if the bullet is the one that's being collided with, right? We'll see what I'm talking about in a second. So that means that we've checked if the prime object collides with the cloud, or if the prime object collides with the island. Now we're going to say if the prime object, whatever the one is, if prime object, collides with the bullet, right? It's really the bullet colliding with it, but same idea. So we're going to take the same syntax like that. We're going to put this in here, and we're going to say bullet. Oh no, we need a sound. Yay! Yay! Gets points, I guess, for now. And then we'll change it later on. We'll say that it gets 100 points, right? That's one thing, but. So for now, we won't reset the cloud, right? Because we'll get 100 points. Because the cloud, whatever it is, should be reset, right? And if that's the case for the cloud and for the game objects, maybe what I need to do is make the reset method public, because then I can reset them remotely. Now I can't do that. If I go back, just to give you an idea, and I never had a reason for this, but this is where inheritance hell comes into place, right? If I go back to my game object, I can see that this reset method, first of all, do I have a reset method? Hopefully not. Good. And if I don't, then the cloud, I may have to reset the cloud, right, remotely, which means I may have to make this reset method public. Because if it collides, I want to reset it. All right? First, let's see if it works. That's the first thing. We'll go back and do this later on, right? We'll see if it goes yay, and then we'll see it going, right? So let's go back to our scenes. We're going to go to scenes, and we're going to go to play.ts. And OK, fine. So this is for each of the clouds, blah, 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 whatever. And let's try this up before we put the clouds. They're all instantiated. But let's see what happens if we just run the scene and see what happens. Maybe we're going to get an error, right? We don't want that. So I'm just going to run the whole scene. So first of all, I'm going to kind of open in terminal, or we have actually open in terminal already. No, we don't. Let's try this out. So open in terminal. And we're going to just run this thing on light server. So light-server. There we go. So far, so good. And if I press start, like I said, there's issues, right? Before we even get to the bullet firing thing. So let's see what the problems are. So console. On-cut type error, cannot read property of x of undefined in my bullet.ts file, right? So bullet.ts, this.x is the this position.x, right? So I'm resetting, and x, as in this.position.x, doesn't make any sense, right? And that is a matter of timing, when I'm calling reset, because I got to be very careful, because initialize, if I go back to my game object, if I go to scripts, objects, game object, my game object has this position, but where do I instantiate it? I instantiate it in this.x, and that's going to be done in my initialize phase. Initialize happens before my start. Initialize happens before my start object, right? So theoretically, it should be okay, right? Let's go back. That's why we got to trace all this stuff out, because we're doing a lot of things that are happening. So reset gets called by start. Here it is. This position is equal to default position, and this dot default position never gets made. That's why, because I took that away erroneously. So I gotta still declare that somewhere, and it's got to be somewhere in here. So that's one thing I didn't do right. So I kind of consider this is the bullet class. This dot underscore default position. I instantiate that, and I thought I had done it, but I guess not. I guess I took it out in my fervor, right? I was like, yes, I did it right, Tom, right? But no, I did not. So it's this dot default position is equal to new vector2 object. If it has nothing to go, then I'll put it 1,000 and 1,000. Okay, let's go back here. Mail pilot. Okay, that error is gone. Let's keep up the screen just to make sure that there's no other issues. Start. What happened? It went like 1,000,000 miles an hour. Let's take a look. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't do it. I can't avoid them. There's a reason for this. Yeah, it's nice, but there's a reason for all this insanity. And by the way, there's no error here. This is the computer has done what I tell it to do, right? That's the thing to understand, right? So, it just does what I tell it to do. It does, computers are dumb until you program them, right? So, sorry, computer, if you don't get mad at me, I swear. Let's go back to the placing. You got to see what I'm doing here. So, remember that I'm doing a for each and within a for each. Well, that's probably going to be the issue, right? So I need to instantiate each of the bullets, right? But I got to check each of the bullets. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you need something called like a bullet manager to manage all the bullets, right? And the bullet manager would have its own kind of collider checker thing, right? So check to see if it collides within each of the bullets on its own, right? So again, we're running this for each loop, and what I could do is go back to the way it was just to check it. So we'll get rid of this. We'll get rid of this. We'll definitely update the bullets for now. So we'll say, oops. I don't know how that happened. That's just a finger typing error, I swear. Okay, so each bullet gets updated, each cloud gets, but there's no collisions yet. Let's just see what happens. So does it give me an error? I want no errors first. So back to normal, all right? Yay. We're still good to go. So that's good. That's a good news story. So now that the changes have gone in, that's good. But what I need to do is I need to check and somehow retain the fact that I'm checking for each bullet, right? So I'm running a collision check. I'm updating each cloud. I'm updating each bullet, but each bullet and each cloud are separate. And I'm using kind of a for each loop for bullets and clouds. And that's the problem. That's why it's running so much quicker, right? Because inside, the reason why it's moving so fast is because inside the cloud update, because it's inside, I'm performing a for each loop over and over again a bunch of times, like one for each loop for each of the clouds and one for each loop for each of the bullets, but I'm checking, you know, everything separately, right? So how do I do that? I don't want to perform an update more than once. And it's almost like I need another for each loop to check the collision of the clouds and the bullets separately. And I think that's what I have to do, my friends. And there's more bullets than clouds, right? There's more bullets than clouds, which means I have to check a kind of a for each loop away from these ones that does all the clouds, the checking first, like this. So for each bullet, just like I did before. So again, bullets. I'll do a for each. How about we'll do a for each? Yeah, for each. One. And it's going to be bullets on the outside, right? Bullets. This dot underscore. For each bullet, right? Bullet. And I gotta think what this will be on the inside, and I'll do the cloud on the outside. There's a reason for this. This dot underscore, so for each. We'll do the cloud on the outside. This dot underscore clouds. Cloud. Gotta run through it again. I hate doing this, but I don't see another solution unless I'm going to do an update at the same time, and the update's the thing that caused us to do that, to run that craziness. So bullets on the inside, clouds on the outside. So I'm only checking for each cloud. There's only 3 clouds. For each cloud, I'm checking all the bullets, right? Not from each bullet checking each cloud. That's probably not a good thing, right? And then what I want to do is, instead of doing this, right, this player I leave here because I'm not checking the player and the cloud again. I'm just checking the bullet in the cloud, the cloud and the cloud and the bullets. So I'm going to say this dot underscore collision dot check separate object, and then cloud and bullet. A separate one, right? So this, all this does, right, is checks collisions between each bullet cloud, sorry, each cloud and each bullet. Okay. This doesn't just move the update. This also checks collision. So you see, some of this can go out of here. Checks collision with the player and each cloud. That's a different thing, and that's why this works in this context. This will not work in there. I can't just add it in. Okay, so let's see if this breaks it. Hold on. We're good. Yay. Good. All right, so that's good. So now that we've got that piece, what I need to do is let's fire a bullet. One step at a time, right? Otherwise, trouble. All right, let's go into to this. And I know that sounds really weird, but sorry. All right, so we've instantiated all these objects, right? So as soon as I instantiate the objects, I'm going to fire off the first bullet. So I'm going to say something just to test. So here's our test. Just to know I can take it out, right? Otherwise, you know, might get lost. I want to go something like this. This, that underscore clouds. It's already been instantiated. I'm going to look at cloud 0, and I'm going to go. Now, I should be able to do each sort of clouds. That's not what I want. Bullets, 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 test, test, test. That's why we do test, 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 because we're looking at the wrong freaking thing, right? I meant here. Test this. That'll be the comment. Test this. Let's just test. We're going to say this dot underscore bullets 0 dot fire, right? And it needs another coordinate system. It needs to know where the player object is, which means I can't do it now. I can't do it here. They all have to instantiate. This is good news. They all have to instantiate down here after the player gets created, my player object, right? Why is that giving me an error now? Oh, I still give me the same error. It needs what fire needs. If you hover over it, it needs a new position that it's going to go to, which is the player position, right? The player position. I'll put that there for now. So the player position for now, it'll look funny, but that's where it'll start off. So this dot underscore player dot position. That's what it needs. All right. So when we start off, let's just do one of these and start. Yay. What? Oh. That didn't work out exactly like I wanted. It's like, no, it's good. It's good. This is a good thing, right? No, I didn't, right? So, but I have to update each bullet, right? Did I update each bullet? Let's see. We're getting closer. We're getting closer, right? It's just a matter of getting it going, right? So it did the bullet, but it's put it in a weird position. I don't know why. This player dot position. And we'll have to look at this, what this means in the grand scheme of things in a second. Also, we're instantiating it here, but not here. So bullet update happens for each bullet. Here's where the bullet update happens. So I guess, I mean, I don't want to instantiate one every time. I guess I could, right? But that means like every one of them would just fire. Bullet, fire, 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 fire. Keep on doing that, and it's going to keep moving to the player position, right? For every bullet. That's just weird, right? And what happens if that bullet goes off screen, right? And I don't fire it anymore, right? What if I run out of bullets? It's kind of a weird thing, right? I gotta, press the button, and as soon as I keep pressing, it goes through, it cycles through each bullet, goes to the next bullet. If the bullet's already in flight, it's gonna fire the next one, right? That's what's gonna happen. So it checks to see if the bullet's in flight. If it's in flight, go to the next one. If it's in flight, go to the next one. Okay, fire that one now, right? And if there's no more bullets, if it goes to the bottom of the list and there's no more bullets, don't fire anything until go back to the top and see if there's a bullet, if that bullet's back, right? That's what the list is going to go through. So go through and check to see which one is not being fired. If it's being fired, you can't fire it again, right? Because it's in flight. Can't fire a bullet that's already in flight. All right, so that kind of didn't work. First of all, let's check the player position here. So remember, that's why we do console log. We'll say right at this point, this dot underscore player dot position, right? Because we're giving a position for the object, is something that I want to understand. I want to know what the player position is. So let's just bring up the console to inspect where it is. Because then this is very complex, right? Or it can be. All right, so start. Well, there you go. See? Yay. So restart. There it is again. So player position, for some reason, at this particular point in time right here, is 0, 0. Which doesn't make any sense. It's not reporting properly, right? Because I've instantiated my player object as a plane, right? And I've added the child to the screen, and I'm playing the engine sound, right? And when I instantiate the object, let's go see what happens, because this is important, right, to understand how this works, right? So like objects, we might reveal another bug, right? So if I go to player, and I instantiate my object, so I do this, right? So my object gets instantiated, it calls the start method for my player, right? And it says this dot y is equal to 430, right? And then on update, only on update, do I update my position, right? Ooh, but this is a problem, right? Even here, I set my position. This is a bug. I found a bug, right, in our code, right? This should be this dot player, this dot position, this dot position is equal to, and it's got to be equal to something else too, like the x position, right, of the screen. It's going to change immediately, but initially this position has got to be 0, right? Because it's got to be, the position's got to be 0 because it's not on the screen, right? So this dot position dot x is going to be 0, right? And this dot position dot y is going to be this dot y, right? Actually, we should probably do the same thing. This dot x and this dot y, this dot x, right? So when I started off, you should have a position already, right? Let's try this out. So now we've done this. Let's go back to collision check, save that. Go over here, restart. Okay. 0 and 430, right? That's good. That was the original position, 0 and 430, which is up here, right? So we should see it fire up the screen, right? That was weird. I got like a bunch of yays all at the same time. Yay, a bunch of times. All right. You guys can't hear it, but I can. It's really annoying. Okay, let's go back. So, all right, so that's good. So the position is okay, but what happens when my bullet fires? I got to go back to bullet firing. All right, so when I fire, I pass in a new position. This x and this y takes on this position. This x and this y. Okay. And then this dot position is equal to the new position, right? Because I passed in that value, right? Okay, and this is on fire. So y then is x and is y, not 230 when I instantiate for the first time, right? Because my default position is equal to vector 1000, 1000. This dot underscore reset, which calls the reset method right here, which sets my position at the default position. This is when it gets instantiated, right? In flight is false, starting off. And then when I call fire, in flight is true, right? And then I do this. Oh. Right again.
Yay.
Okay, we need to know the position of the bullet too. So we'll say at that position, troubleshooting, guys, troubleshooting, right? Because this is part of it. Right? Again, this is taking way longer than I thought. But it happens, right? Because we're doing it a different way than last time, right? So if I go to I probably should do the same thing. I should probably do a console log, right, of the bullet position. So I'm only doing one bullet, right? And of course, this is why we do these things, because otherwise, when we do the wrong things, this is bad. This dot underscore bullets 0 dot position. Sometimes the x and y coordinates won't come into play, but everything else will. Okay, so save, fresh.
Yay.
Okay. What if the bullet fires, just curious, the bullet fires is not the player position for a second, but rather, because it's taking the player position nicely, but rather a new vector 2 object, which is at 0. Yeah, so it's going to be at 480, 640, 320, and 430. Why is it not doing that? Vector 2. Oh. Okay, so I'm setting it at different places. This is good.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. See that? See that weird, you know, bullet, that weird count? That was weird too, right? I know why it's happening, by the way. Why that weird, it's actually colliding. The colliding is working, right? The colliding, oh, we got real issues here, guys. Here's our collision. Our collision, before it comes into here, it says that the prime position and the other position, right, has to be less than the prime half height plus the other half height. And if the other is colliding is equal to true, right, then, because it wouldn't be true, right, if the other colliding, it should be false, right, by default, right? Okay, and here's the other thing, is colliding, right, is an objects.gameObject thing, right? And the default is it's not true, it's false, right? And that's when I make the sound. I make the sound if it's not colliding, otherwise other is colliding is false. And it's kind of a weird yay, and it keeps on colliding over and over again, like crazy. And the sound, this is kind of, you know, happening. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You can't hear it, but I can. Let's try and duplicate that again. So start. Watch for the cloud on the corner. Oh, look at my score.
Yay. Yay.
Answer.
Yay.
How did I get 14,500, right? What is it colliding with, right? It's showing my positions way up here in the corner, right? But let's see what's happening. It's a glitch. It's just like these are bugs that we have to fix, right? So we have to find this out. So the other thing is going back to our play just for a second. Let's find out, I want to do a console log, not of position, but of bullet X. And I also want to get a console log of bullet 0Y. Because here what's happening is, look, I add the bullets onto the screen, right? So I push the new bullet on, right? The new bullet has a default position. As soon as I instantiate the position, I add it onto the game ob to the screen, this new bullet, right? And I keep doing that for 10 bullets. And now these ones, I want to see what my X and Y positions are for these ones. All right, so start.
Yay. 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 Yay.
It's right up top here.
Yay.
But it's showing me here. Look.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
The score get updated.
The score is getting updated because in my collider, which is here, I'm saying for every bullet firing that hits, right? Then when my other hits my cloud, my bullet hits my cloud, I gotta check to see if my bullet is colliding, right? And if my bullet is colliding, right, then I make the sound. I don't make the sound, right? Until my bullet's not colliding anymore. That's the problem. Too loud, too much. But it's okay. But the other thing is the position that I'm showing. If you saw the position, let me show you one more time, and then I'll quick watch.
Yay.
See that position down here? Look at the position down here. The actual position of my bullet is 320 by 430, and it's staying there. 320 by 430, and it's staying there. It's not moving. It's not updating, right? That's number one. And also, I'm seeing an image of the bullet up here in the corner, which is kind of weird, huh? Glitch. So why is this, the X and Y coordinate, showing 320 by 430? 320 by 430 is down here. Let's try that again. Watch.
Yay. 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 Yay.
It's right here.
Yay.
So that's kind of weird. So it's not giving me an update of position. It's just kind of showing up there, right? That's why we check one bullet at a time. This is the reason, because otherwise we're going to have problems. Let's take away this ugly sound for a second, just because, you know, we don't want to know. We just want to see the actual bullet move. So this ugly sound is gone. Let's go back to here for a second. And this X and Y coordinate, I mean, once we instantiate the object and say bullet fire, it changes the value. So let's go and see the bullet object. Here's my bullet object. Let's pull this out for a second. And let's choose this one as the play object. Here's the play object. So what I say is, well, let's instantiate a new object that's 320 by 430. I do that on the new position. New position is a vector2 object that I pass in. So this dot x and this dot y becomes this, right? Okay. And then this dot position is equal to new position. And then whatever this new position is, this dot position is equal to that. And then this dot in flight is equal to true. Okay, cool. So that happens on fire. On update, if this in flight is equal to true, this dot y is minus equal to this dot speed. This dot speed being what? Well, what is it? Tell me what the speed is. That's the problem. There is no speed. It's 0. So therefore, that's the glitch, right? So now I got to do it. So that happens in my start method. So in my start method, I got to set this speed. So position is this, and I'll say this dot speed. Right? I'll set this dot speed is equal to 5. So let's see how that affects everything. One thing at a time. So start.
Yay.
See that? Haha. Watch. Ready? Watch, watch, guys. Watch. I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Watch. Huh? See that? I can't do it again until I die, but I got to do it. So.
Shooting all the bullets at once.
Huh?
Shooting all the bullets at once?
Sorry. Say that again?
Is it shooting all the bullets at once or just one? Okay.
I'm doing this because we want to test out, does it fly, right? That's what I'm trying to do. Flying, flying, flying. Okay, so this is this test. Now I want to change this one to, well, actually we'll change this one so we don't need this anymore. But we need to change this vector, this object vector, to the position of the plane. That's where it starts off. So this dot player dot position. That's where it should be. All right, so we'll try it again. Start.
Yay.
That's a glitch-orama.
Yay.
See that?
Yay.
So this, at this particular step in time, this position of the player position starts off because it doesn't start off with anything, right? I haven't told it where to start, right? So it starts off because the x coordinate has no default setting, starts off at the 0. So what I need to do is glitch. So you find more glitches, right? When I instantiate this object, my start, this dot x has got to be equal to 0. Oh, sorry, 320, the middle of the screen. We'll start the play in the middle. So whether the mouse is based on the mouse position, right?
Yay.
Let's go back.
Yay.
Now see how I got all those points? Shouldn't. Those points shouldn't happen, right? You didn't see that? Watch the points. Watch it again. Shouldn't happen. You should only get 1 point or 100 points for each cloud, right? That's the collider now. We're getting closer. Now it's just a matter of setting up this stuff, right? So if you got to figure out the collider, here's the collision, right? So it says something like this. It says, no, this is okay. This piece is no problem. So we can get rid of this for a second. But the way the collision works is this. If the other bullet is equal to, if the other bullet is true, then get 100 points. But we're checking to see if the other is colliding, right? The other is colliding. Well, it's true. It's false. It's false. It's always going to be false. Because if I go back to my cloud, right? So my cloud, it's my other that's colliding, right? And when I look at my cloud, it's a little different than my bullet. Yeah. So if I go to my cloud object, so if I go to objects cloud, right? I got my dx and dy values, right? And there's somewhere where I check bounds, right? So I'm checking bounds. So there's my reset. Okay, so here's my reset. That's where it happens, right? And then the height, I check to see if it's off screen, blah, blah, blah. But there's no place that I tell my cloud, right, that that it's not colliding. How does it know? Well, because the game object, and the game object, this could be another glitch for us, right, is colliding, which is a Boolean, has to be set somewhere. Is colliding is false by default. So for the first time, it gets false. So when does is colliding become true? Right? It's got to be set to true at some point, right? Well, in my collision, it starts at false, and then other is colliding is true, right? Whatever the other is, right? So is colliding is true. And remember that if it's true, then other is colliding when it comes back over here, right? It'll skip this one the first time, and then other is colliding is false. Both cannot be colliding. That's what the answer is. It can't be if not other is colliding. It has to be if both are not colliding. Now the great thing is that the plane is never colliding. It's the object that's not colliding. So otherwise we'll kill the whole plane thing too. So if other is not colliding, and first we check that one, and not prime, right? Dot is colliding. Both have to be true. Both have to be not colliding, and then if that's true, right? Yeah, but that's not going to stop anything from happening. We have another issue. We have another. This is not going to stop it. But let's try this out. No. No. That is not the savior. That is not the savior. Let's go on and do that. So why is it happening? It's the size too. The size of the object too, right? Prime point half height plus other half height is less than prime dot position and then other dot position, right? So you get this big object and a really small object. This is where this like collision stuff fails, right? So I'm colliding, I'm colliding, I'm colliding, I'm still colliding, I'm still colliding, right? Because it's still half. And the way to check that, of course, is to see what the positions of the two objects are. So I want to get my cloud or my object, go back to this. Well, let's turn on bullet location every frame. So we'll output that in the bullet. So we'll say, because we're doing this position is equal to new vector, x and y coordinates. That's good. Let's print out this position. So we'll say console.log this dot position. All right, guys, I know it's hairy, but there's no other way to dehair this beast. This is good. That means all of them are 1,000, 1,000. Okay. Sorry, just checking. And I also want to check to see if it's colliding or not, right? So inside my play scene, I'm going to go to here and go to this dot underscore bullets 0 dot is colliding. I want to see what that is, right? I want to do a console log of what that is out to the console to see what the problem is and see what that is.
Yay. Yay.
So it never gets set to true. It's always false. So my bullet is always false. So if not other is colliding, it's always false. Well, then other is colliding is true, it says. I actually set this one up. Well, that's normal because if it's not colliding, the other is the cloud, is the bullet. It's cloud with bullet in this particular case, right? So if not other is colliding is false, right? That's what it is. If this is a true statement, then change other is colliding to true, right? So let's just do that. So we'll say console.log changing to true, and there's something that we got to see what this is a glitch. Again, it's a glitch.
Yay.
Watch.
Yay.
So if I go here,
Yay.
collision, right?
Yay.
I hit it 3 times. See that? $23 times. That's why I got 2,300 points, right? So and it says changing it's trying to change to true, but it's never changed to true. It's always false, right? Huh? Think about that, right? So I go if not other is colliding, right? Then other is colliding is I'm making it true, right? Well, okay, so I make the sound, right? So let's try it inside here. So I'll say, okay, other dot is colliding is equal to true, right? And if it's equal to true, if it's colliding, then I can check to see if the distance is small again. And if this is small enough, the distance, then I check to see if it's false again. Let's see if that's the thing. See? But it never changed. Look. It's like I don't have access to change it. It's like I don't have access to change anything to. It's always false. Always. Okay, but that's weird because if it's always false, then how come the cloud how come the whole cloud and thing work, right? That's a weird thing, right? Let's check this out. So go back. So it's not this. This isn't the answer. What we're going to do is we're going to put a breakpoint. We're going to put a breakpoint in our object when it comes to this point here. So I'm going to go back to my play scene. I don't know if you guys have ever done a breakpoint. We'll do it today. In my breakpoint, when I instantiate this object, I'm going to put a breakpoint in place. We're going to put a breakpoint on the web side, okay, not on this side. So I'm going to go back to here. And that's okay. All right, so under my scripts, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, scenes, under my play.ts, right? So play.ts, you can see that down in here where I do my test is why I put that in there. I want to do one of these, so I can instantiate a breakpoint. And now when I refresh it, you can see the breakpoints in play. Right? Now let's get rid of this for a second. Okay, so here's the breakpoint in play, right? And what I want to do is when it comes to that point, here's the breakpoint. Don't worry about that. What it tells you is that my bullets is 10. Here's my local. My count, this dot play is the object that's playing, is my closure. And what I want to do is I want to step into the function call, right? Here it is. And it tells me what the position of the game object is. This is the game object. And I can keep stepping into the function call. There it is. Now as I go into that, it's going to tell me, again, if I look at this object, this is the object that's being inspected, right? This is the scope. So this is my superclass. Here's my scene, and the global scope should have nothing. Like it should have nothing to do with me. And my window is the global scope, right? I never want to have anything in the global scope unless I show it, right? So right now, this is before I even get to the scene, right? So keep going, keep going. And we'll skip over that so we can get to the next piece. It's instantiating each of the cloud arrays. So it's working. I want to start the next scene this way. I want to go to that next one. This is doing create.js stuff. Let's try that again. Ah. Sorry, I meant to do under sources, and I killed it just now, didn't I? That's it. So what I want to do is I want to pause this when we get faster. Let's try it again. By the way, you guys can't hear what I hear, but it's really annoying. Okay, so this is the position. I want to see, this is the ticker setup. I want to inspect the values. My call stack, do I need to know my call stack? I don't think I need to know this right now. Let's go into this local. Sorry guys, just want to make sure that we get this done right. All right, so that is a really weird thing that we're getting there. Okay, let's just continue.
Yay.
And what if we did the other way around? So there's two ways of doing breakpoints. There's one way like the way I did it, and the other way is in here. If I just actually add a breakpoint in here. So breakpoint, and let's make sure our collision is saved. By the way, if you guys have a solution, if you see a solution to my problem, put up your hand. I know what the problem, I think I know what the problem is. But because I'm checking to see if my other bullet, my other name is equal to bullet, and the problem is this methodology right here is colliding for the bullet. It's not working. It's not working at all. Like changing to true is not going to happen for this bullet. And it could be the fact that the bullet's so small relative to the cloud. So big object, small object, and you're doing distance formulas between the two. So I want to find the distance between the two objects. So basically what I can do is I can say, well, what is the distance? What is this, the distance between object prime and object, position? Let's say the other position. So I can kind of do that. So I can say something like AB console.log, right? So I want to see what that is because we're getting a value that's weird. And again, this is like bug fixing because once I get this actual fix other bugs I don't even know about. Right? Okay, let's try it again. And did I put a breakpoint? Hopefully. Let's see if this works in another way. It probably won't work, but refresh. No, it's not what I want. Too many objects to check because I have like a bunch of objects. Let's cut the number of objects down to 1. So I'm going to instantiate 1 object. I'm going to add 1 object into the class. And this is like really down and dirty, but hey, it is what it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to just nix this piece because I really want to get down to 1. And so much for helping you guys out. This dot underscore bullets dot push new objects dot bullet. I'm only adding 1. That way I can see only 1 object, what it's doing.
Yay.
Where'd it go? So I'm pushing 1 object, right? See? Telling you, and this bullet fire stuff, this bullet's fire is this first object, right? So I'm firing the bullet and I'm checking to see if it's colliding. It's going to be false, but I'm doing it here. So I'm saying bullets fire, right? And I'm getting the player position, which is here for the first time, right? Setting at the player's position. So why is it not showing me bullet 0? So let's put out what bullet 0 is 1 time. So console log, and then bullet, this dot underscore bullet 0. I want to understand what that is. Is there even an object at this point? 1. The other thing is that I'm doing that printout under my collision check up here. It's going to be some weird values. Just for now, let's just do one of these and go back to it.
Yay.
So all I'm doing here, guys, I'm just inspecting the bullet to see where it is. The X and Y coordinates are 1,000, 1,000 when it gets instantiated, right? That's the first thing. So now when I do bullet fire, so it's a regular bullet, so it does get instantiated, bullet 0. But then when I do bullet fire, down here, bullet 0, fire, and I pass in the player position, I should be able to do this. Just curious. Before we were getting it,
Yay.
see? Never changed. So why is that? Yeah, but it did before. Look how glitchy that is, right? So I said bullet 0 fire, and I pass in the player position. player position is happening right here, right? So player position is a new vector object, right? And it triggers the fire event. If I can't trigger the fire event, guys, I can't do a bullet, right? That's just the bottom line, right? And bullet 0 is the one that I've instantiated up here. When I just instantiate more than one, let's add 2 bullets. Just curious. So I'm going to do this for this line twice. So I push another bullet up to this to the thing. So we got 2 bullets now. See what happens. Can't even see the bullet, right? And the reason why is because this happens here. For each bullet update, right? For each bullet, do a bullet update. Okay, let's take away the collision check. We're going back to the drawing board. No.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
Still colliding. Look, I do change the starting point because it should be the new position for this bullet. If you think about it, once I do this fire, something's wrong still with bullet fire. Because if bullet 0 fire, bullet 0 refers to Tom. Of course, I didn't see that until it was way later. Testing bullets fire. Yeah, this is good. The console log, so I'll see 1 bullet firing. I'll be able to see that come back into play now, where I see the bullet. It's good.
Yay.
And now that I see 1 bullet instant, because I wasn't added to the scene. So now that I got 1 bullet firing, now I'll do down here and put that back. So for each cloud, I check cloud bullet. And that's my problem. Because for each cloud, I'm checking the bullet again. That bullet can hit each cloud. And therefore, because there's more than 1 cloud, it's always going to be false. And that's why I can never set it to true, because as soon as it goes in there, right, I'm setting it to false because it's not colliding with that cloud. Because it's not colliding with that cloud, so I have 3 clouds. Okay, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if I only had 1 cloud, let me show you this so you can understand what I'm talking about and you see how it works. If I only had 1 cloud, then when I check the cloud with a bullet, right, when I go with my collision, here's my collision. This is why it makes sense. So the first cloud says I'm not colliding, right? So if it's not, the other is not colliding and the distance doesn't make it, is not true, if it's too far away, then look at the if statement. So if, else, the other colliding is equal to false. And that's a glitch. It shouldn't automatically set the collision to false. If it's not colliding, why should it do that, right? Because that means that's assuming that, that's making an assumption that it's the one that's being collided with. So other is colliding is false is nice for the plane in the cloud, right? Because that means the cloud is not, if it's not colliding, then it's false. I'm not colliding with the plane. There's only 1 plane that's moving around. It's false. But I have tons of these bullets. Bullets are flying, and there's 3 clouds coming down. And I'm doing cloud with plane. So it's got to be the other way. That's the answer. Leaving this the same way. Sorry, guys. It's a bit of logic. So nothing's wrong with this. But the glitch is where I'm checking here. Let's try it this other way around. So. Let's try it the other way. So we'll put this one here for each bullet, even though I thought it was the wrong way of doing it. For each bullet, I'll check each cloud. But so I'm checking each bullet. So one bullet, cloud 1, cloud 2, cloud 3, right? And then this might be the same thing. Might be the same effect. Let's try it again. Let's try again. Same.
Yay.
Try again.
Yay.
No effect. So it's not the position of this stuff. It's because I'm checking the way I'm checking for each cloud and each bullet. So I gotta check my. I think I'll keep it the same, but I'll change my collision back to the way it was. Closer, closer. We know the problem now. Now we gotta fix the problem. So this is this. This is this. If it's not colliding, and maybe what we do is if it's not colliding. So if not other is colliding, then do this. If it is colliding, then you skip it, and then you check to see if the distance is there again. If other is colliding, no. Then because the other is colliding. So if it's false, so I'm not colliding. So am I good? It's not colliding. Good. Make a collision. Other colliding is true. Now as we go back up, it just checks the distance. So now the object is moved. Am I still colliding? If the distance is less than thing, yes, it's true. Then keep moving the thing until check again the next time. So check again and see if the object is still colliding as I go through.
You want to destroy the bullet and the cloud, you want them to collide for the first time?
Well,
Or do you want the bullet to collide on multiple clouds and add all those points?
the easiest way is to collide one time with the cloud. But that means in my cloud, just to check this out, to see that you're right, I have to reset my cloud. So to solve my issue, right, is inside my cloud script. Sorry guys, I apologize for this, but here it is. If I go to my objects cloud, if I make my cloud reset, I want to rename this reset symbol to reset. I'll make it just for clouds. Clouds can reset. And instead of public, private, it'll be public. Bear with me. I can say that then that when I hit the collision, only for the, when the bullet hits it, I'll say that prime dot. It's not for every object. So if it has to be, because prime it will have to be bullet and cloud. So prime dot reset. It's not a common thing. It's not a common thing. It's only for it's only no. It's only for that object, right? So I'd have to cast it to. I have to cast my prime to a cloud. So the way it would be is. So prime is equal to cloud objects.cloud cloud prime. Sorry, fancy. And now from here I can go something like prime reset, and of course it would not work. I want to be able to cast prime as a objects.cloud. So I could check if prime is equal to cloud, but I can't because I'm checking for objects, game objects, And not all game objects has a reset function, which means I'm going to have to put a reset function into the game object. I make it public, and that way I can solve the problem. This is, remember we talked about inheritance help? I'll make it work eventually, but this is what it is. So I'll go to cloud, and this is the way my structure is. That means game objects. So I'm going to add another public function called reset. I'll leave as empty. Turns void. Right? And only the one that'll have it, I'll only call reset. It won't do anything except for the one that has it, which is the cloud. Yeah, I love it. This is crazy. That's a workaround. So now it works, but I don't have to do this. All right, let's see if that works. That solved the issue. Look.
Yay.
All right. It's a good idea, but if that works, then I have to reset my bullet. My bullet can't keep going. It's like that bullet is supercharged, it's gonna right through go for everybody, right? So that's another way of doing it. Instead of resetting my prime object, I reset my bullet object. My prime only gets hit once. I get 100 points, and my bullet also gets reset. That means going back to my bullet objects, core. No, objects, bullets. Where is it? In my bullet object, my reset method is this. I got to recast this thing. So rename the symbol to reset so I can use it. And then make this public. But if I'm going to do this to them, public, then I might as well make all my reset methods public. I'll do that later, because then we'll stay consistent with the whole span of things. Okay, so that means in my collision, and I'll not only reset my prime, but I'll also reset my other. I can do. Both get reset.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
Oh, missed those. That was weird. Let's try that again.
Slow it down.
Collision works great. Okay, we need a sound for the bullet to make. And again, you guys can't hear. Right now it does this. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm switching to voice so you can hear. Right? Doesn't do anything. Right? I don't want to make the yay sound anymore, so I need another sound for the bullet. And we can use one of my programs that I have, right, which is this one, CFXR. Let's make an explosion type, right? Let's turn that up just a little bit so you guys can hear it. Oh, well, it's kind of an explosion sound, but really not, right? So let's see. Maybe that might be the right one. That's kind of a short one. Oh, kind of like that one. This one? That one? You like that one? Okay, just because Abel likes it, we'll use it. So we'll use export. And we'll export as a WAV file. Now, WAV files have a funny way of showing up on Create.js. Just saying, right? If you go export quick, by the way, export quickly, it says you need quick export. You can export to the same folder. Blah 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 blah. Okay, then that's not what I want. I want to export properly, and I want to export inside my folder. So I'm going to go to courses. Sorry. Desktop, inside mail pilot, inside my assets, in my audio, and we're going to call this bullet hit, bullet hit. Export wave. All right, that's good enough. It's called BFXR. There's actually three. There's BFXR. You go BFXR, right? You can download if you go to bfxr.net. There's CFXR as well, so you can do it here online, and you can export a WAV file, right? Or whatever. Like if I want to do the same thing, right? I can make a different, like, you know, random sounds with something called bfxr.net, right? So we won't do that. Now we have the sound, and we have it in our manifest, right? Because in our audio, we have this bullet hit.wave, and in my game.ts, we'll go to put in this other object, but it's not an OG sound. It is actually, say, bullet hits, and we'll say bullet hit.wave. I want you to see that if it works or not. So bullet hit.wave. If not, we have to convert it to MP3, which is not a big deal. So here's our bullet hit sound, and what we want to do is in our collision, when I'm here, I want to make my bullet hit sound once. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to say createjs.sound.play bullet hit. Let's try it out. By the way, it doesn't mean that it'll work. Missed everything. Okay, so it kind of works. Gets the sound, gets the points straight up. So I'll try again.
Yay.
All right, and then when we make the bullet happen, when we actually fire the bullet, it has to make the sound too. So when the bullet is instantiate, when the bullet fired happens, we have to make that sound that goes boop, boop, like a actual bullet firing sound. So it can't be like blip, you know, explosion. Here's a power up or a hit. Here's a laser shooting sound. No. That's not bad. Let me see how that sounds. So if I was going to fire the bullet, it would sound like this. Right? That's not bad, actually. And then when it hits it, it makes the other sound that you had. Okay, so let's do that. So export. And we'll call this bullet fire. Export wave. That's good. We got the sound that we want. Bullet fire. And we'll go to here. And we'll go to my game.ts. And we'll add this another wave in there. Who asked for bullets? Kill you. All right, sorry. Joking. Bullet fire. I know. Bullet fire. Bullet fire is the sound, and of course we're going to make this sound whenever we instantiate the bullet fire. Whenever we click fire on the bullet. So if I go to bullet, I want to hit the fire and do this. I make it in flight, and I also make that sound. So createjs dot sound.play. We'll say bullet fire. So as soon as I make the fire button happen, bullet fire happens. You might say this is a little crazy. But we do it for one bullet because then afterwards, it's no problem. Might be too soft. I just gotta press the. I think it might be too soft.
Yay.
Can't tell.
Yay.
I'll have to check with more bullets. All right, so how do I check it with more bullets? And close it down. So the first part was actually making the bullet fire, and I think we've accomplished that part. So this, a bullet class, collisions occur with the clouds. Yes, it does. we should add another one that basically says the other ones. Let's add this up to here. This is all for you guys, eh? Craziness that I did. Why? That's crazy. Bullets, easy, right? Yeah. And bullet firing. No, bullet class and bullet collision. So I haven't done bullet firing yet. Bullet collision. Closes issue number 21 and 22. 21, and issue number 22. Those I did for sure. Okay, so check mark, push. Good. Back to here. Go to this one. 21, 22. Go from labels to deployed. There we go. And close this issue. Go back to issue. Like these ones are a lot of troubleshooting. Shouldn't have been troubleshooting. Should be easy. And deployed. Started good. But you know how it is. These things are, you know, nothing in life is ever easy, is what they say. Right? Okay, so one of the things I need to fire the bullets, and for those people who are still here, I'll continue. If you go to my code, I have my code up online actually, and I got some code up on Centennial, and I need to do bullet firing with my spacebar. But in order for me to do bullet firing with my spacebar, I've got to bind the spacebar as a whole other thing to my keyboard. But my keyboard binds with a Windows event because it's part of the browser. It's not part of the. It's part of the game. So whenever I click the button or the spacebar, it's gonna when the browser window is running. So I have a solution already on. If I go COMP397, and if I go down to less than 11, that's way late. Under this, because I remember I did another code like this. I have other objects, and one of them is keyboard controls.ts. Thank you very much. Right? Oh yes, I already have. I'm showing you where you can get this stuff. I swear. Right? So here's my keyboard controls.ts. I'm just gonna include this one in here. So I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel because I have it. Right? So keyboard controls is called keyboard controls.ts. It's an object I'm putting into play. It's going to be a code snippet, guys. I'm sorry. I could build it from scratch, but there's just no time. So new file. Make sure I get the right name. Sorry. Keyboard controls, all lowercase.ts. All right. Keyboard control class. So this is what happens when I do a key down, on key down, right? I press the key, right? What it does is it binds the keys to this object, right? And I have a bunch of different things: move forward, move backward, move left, move right. I'm leaving all this in there for you. I don't need all this. I need spacebar, which is right here, right? And it says this jump. Right, but I can change it because right now it's based on movement, right? I can change this to this jump.fire is equal to true. So you see where jump is public. I'm going to rename this thing, right? So rename symbol to fire, right? This fire is equal to true. And if this dot fire is equal to true, when my keyboard is pressed, right? Then. And this is a keyboard class. So I'm going to instantiate the keyboard class. And then I can check to see if the keyboard, if the fire button is being pressed. And if it is, and I'll check that during an update, then fire a bullet. And I'll keep firing bullet 0 for now. Right? Which will reset it temporarily. All right, so let's go back to, first of all, let's add this in. So I'm going to go back into my index.html. There we are. And I want to put in my object for my bullet. my keyboard object has to be before my bullet class so I can access it. So it's probably one of the first things I want to put in, like way up at the top, like up to buttons and labels, that far up, even after the scene object, right? So like something up here, way up here. So I want to kind of do one of these. And I want to put in my new object, which is the keyboard controls. That's what it's called. Keyboard controls.ts. I'm going to make sure that it transpiles too in a second. Keyboard controls.ts, save. Save. Right? Keyboard controls. And then what I do is in my play scene, but only in this play scene. So audio, scripts, contents, managers, scenes, play. Sorry guys, play scene. In my play scene, I want to instantiate my keyboard controls to work. But I want to probably do that after everything has been in place. So my updates, my scores, well, my update scoreboard, I don't want to do that, but definitely before everything else is done. So I'm going to say something like this. I'll say private keyboard controls is equal to objects.keyboard controls. There we go. And then what I'll do is down in here, take care. I'll have it up for sure. You'll see the answer for you in about another hour or so. Then let's take this bullet fire position. We'll use that. Collision. I'll do this collision manager. That's another reason why it's probably happening, and that's weird. We'll definitely do it after the collision manager because we need to make sure that that's cool. So we'll say this._ keyboard controls equal to new keyboard controls. Objects. Keyboard controls. That does that. And then when I only have two bullets right now. So when I'll check if keyboard is being fired, and I'll do that before here. So I'll say if this._ keyboard controls.fire, okay, then fire the bullet. I can make a bullet manager out of this, right? But I can't do it yet. So I'll say this._ bullets. I'll fire bullet 0 for now. .fire. Fire. And we'll pass in this.player.position. Hi. And this should do it. So let's see if that. And so only for object 0. And let's go. Tim's shaking his head. Tim's shaking. It's not going to do it, Tom. Tom. It's not going to do it, Tom. All right. So that means to make sure that we have nothing extra. Keyboard controls. This collision. Yeah, I'm putting that back in a second. But I don't have any other bullet that I'm using, right? Just that one. Okay, good. Just want to check to see if there's no issues. Otherwise, we'll have a problem later. All right, so let's go back and do localhost 3000 for mail pilot. We'll start it off.
Yay.
If I do this, right, if I hold it down, right?
Yay. Yay.
So that's the problem. So the problem is the bullet works. So bullet fire and the deposition position works. I don't care about what the other keyboard controls do. I'm listening for them all, but I don't care, right? I'm just, so for you guys, they're there, so you can change those keyboard controls to make them move right and left, up and down instead of the mouse, so I can make them move right and left with my keyboard controls, the whole thing, right? It's there. Once you have your keyboard controls in place, they work for the entire game, right? All right, so I got my keyboard, but how do I make it so that as long as I press my space bar, another one goes down? I need to kind of keep firing the bullet over and over again. So I fire my first bullet. I don't want to reset my bullet. I want to fire the next one. Bullet fire on the next one. So I got to check if my thing is firing. Go to the first bullet, do a loop. Go to the first bullet in the list. If it's already in flight, go to the next bullet in the list. If it's already in flight, go to the next bullet in the list. Keep going to the next bullet in the list until there's no more bullets to go to. And then, what do you keep doing? Go and then recycle that again, right? So now, remember, I'm moving so fast that I probably can get away with about 10 to 15 bullets. Let's try this out. So let's go back up to the bullet now. So instead of add child 1 bullet, now we know we fixed our problems by working around with your solution. Able, I gotta give Able some props on this one, right? And again, there's different ways of doing this, but we just chose the dirty way to do it. 10 bullets, right? And this time, instead of when we press the button, I'm gonna check if space, or fire or space bar is pushed. And if it's true, fire the bullet, right? So now we'll check to see, let's say, if, well, first of all, we'll do a for loop. Maybe a for each. For each bullet, again, it's almost like this, right? For each bullet in bullets, for each of the bullets, I don't want to do this collision check anymore. What I want to say is I want to fire the bullet. So if the bullet in flight, right? If the bullet is not in flight, then what do I want to do? I want to make the bullet go in flight. I want to do bullet.fire. I want to make it so the player, this underscore player position is the thing that I'm passing in. Make sense? Checking for each bullet, and then if not, then I'll stop.
Yay. Yay.
And even though I'm pressing it, it's the fastest I can do it. Look.
Yay.
I can't. Holding the space bar down, I can't. It's the fastest I can do it. Look.
Yay. Yay. Yay.
Only one bullet coming out of the top, right? I got like a lot of points. Right? Why did I get that many points? 27 dollars. 1,000. I know why.
Yay.
They're all being fired at the same time. Okay. We don't want all of them to be fired at the same time. We want only one to be fired every time we check, right? So if not in flight, bullet fire is true, right? However, if it's in flight, right? We don't want to fire all of them, just want to fire the first one, right? Then it's going to check to see if the next one, if it's not in flight. But it's going to happen so fast, right? So I'm pressing that button so fast that I don't want to check. If I fire the first one, then I want to kind of escape or continue from this loop, right? For each of the loops that I'm doing. I'm checking for each of the bullets.
Next.
Well, I can't. I'm going to go for it. Does each of them, right? So for each of the bullets that are not in flight, I want to have them set to I'm going to fire each of them one at a time, right? For the next one, as long as I'm pressing the space bar, right? But I'm firing all of them because I'm saying, well, check to see, right? If that one's already in flight, and if not, fire them all. I'm firing them each one. For each one, I'm checking and firing, right? So I don't want to do this. I want to kind of say, well, I want to check the first one, and if the first one's not good, whatever bullet is currently the current bullet, right, in my bullet list, right, is being fired. The last bullet that was fired, somehow I got to keep track of that, right? And I'm keeping track. Like I said, I need a bullet manager. Bullet manager class would have track of the current bullet being fired. I keep track of that. The next bullet that's being fired, the position of the bullets being fired, like all these different things, right? I'm trying to do it without the bullet manager class. Right? I'm trying to do it so that way I fire one after the other, right? So what I want to say is, go do a for loop, right? When I check the fire button, I want to check to see if the thing is in flight, right?
When one bullet is in flight, you should be able to fire the next bullet. Right?
That's correct,
so
right? But if
it's not a list, right?
Okay, so it says, no, it's a list. So, well, it's a list or an array. So if the bullet is in flight, then, kind of do something else. So if the bullet is in flight, go to the next bullet, right?
Just like the dot next. Work here? No, that's no order to it. That's no order to it.
There is no next, right? I can't go bullet dot, you're saying dot next. There is no next. I can splice the bullet out. That's what I can do, right? So I can remove the bullet from the array, so I can't fire that bullet anymore. I can pop the bullet out, right? And when I pop the bullet out of the array, it's gone, right? It's finished, finito, right? But then if I add it back in, it's going to come on top of on the plane next time, because now it comes underneath the plane, right? Next time it'll come on top of the plane because of the display order, right? So what I want to do is I want to check to see if the bullet's being fired. If the bullet is already in flight, right, then what I want to do is I want to pause from firing. I want to say that I've already started to fire, and if I'm already fired, if it's already firing, right, if that's almost like I'm in firing mode. Wait, right? So I have to wait, keep waiting, right, to see if my bullet firing is true. So I got to count something. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to count how many times each frame, because I have 60 frames per second, right? So I'm only going to allow myself to fire, right, depending on the frame count, right, frame tick, if you will, right? If the frame tick, then I have to keep track of frames. I'm saying there's different ways of doing it, right?
If you get the current which bullet it is, if it's bullet number 1 or 2 or and all that, the current one, just add increment 1 to get the next bullet. Then we can fire the next bullet accordingly.
Or
because here we don't have the current bullet we are firing at the moment, right? The current position of the bullet.
What we want
number of the bullet. There are 10 bullets. The number.
What we want to do, right? We only have one bullet, right? But we don't want to fire them all at the same time. So even when I press the button, it doesn't matter how often I press the button.
Can you just break the loop?
I could break the loop. I could say,
and then it would just call this because this is the update.
Yes, I could, but that's a really ugly way of doing it. That makes me feel hurt when you say that, right? Right? I could do that. So you're saying break the loop. So if the bullet is not in flight, right, if the bullet is not in flight, you're saying fire the bullet and then break the loop. I mean, you'd like to think that you can do that, right? Jump target cannot cross, function boundary, right? Or I think it's continue. Could it be continue? I think even that is wrong. It's because this function, but this is a function. I'm writing a for each loop.
Oh, okay.
Let's do a different kind of loop.
You're doing like a map.
No, yeah, I'm doing a different kind. I'm doing a function. This function here is what's happening, right?
Right.
So I'll say instead of this for each, I'll do a for loop. I'll do a for loop. Bear with me. We'll take the same functionality here for a second and get rid of this. Right. Gotta be careful so I don't kill the whole function. Let's undo that. Let's remove this first, so I know which one it is. Then remove this one. Sorry, because I'll screw myself up if I don't do this right. And then I'll do something else. So say for each, sorry, for, and do a for in as well. That's the other one I could do. Kind of a weirder kind of loop though. It's not a function, is it? Yeah, it's probably a better loop to use in this case.
Why?
Because it's not, again, you don't need an index, right? So object will be this dot underscore bullets.
Oh, you don't care about the
I don't care about the index. And then this would be bullet. For every bullet would be the index. Right? So what I want to do is the same thing. So I want to check to see if, here's how it works. This dot underscore bullets, bullet, that works, right? Dot is in flight, so not, that works. Then, if it's not in flight, then fire the bullet. So this dot underscore bullets, bullet, fire. This underscore fire, position. But when we fire it, we want to break. Different kind of loop than the for each. For each won't allow you to break.
you have to call, oh, you have to call return.
Correct. Right. So which doesn't make any sense, right? The return would return what?
Nothing more.
Right. So then we could do that way too. We could have done it that way. This is a function. Let's see if this does it. It's gonna work that way. It's gonna be too fast. Because you got to think about how fast this is happening, right? This is happening fast. You can
Yay. Yay. Yay.
because it's happening so quickly. Like I told you, we need a delay. Like the break is a great idea. But what I want to check is the time that I press the fire button, I can't allow the firing mechanism to continue firing forever, right? It's got to be staggered, right? So it's almost like I got to wait to see, here's my current, I got to have a current current frame and my previous frame, right? So I could capture the number. So I can start counting frames. Counting frames, no problem, right? Or I could do it by time too. So current time in milliseconds, date time, right? Minus the other one, and I can rate. But the problem with that is it really is, that's really system dependent. This frame thing is like, it'll work on the whole game is working with frames. So ticks, basically. So if I want to wait, like for example, I have 60 frames, right? So every tick I go through this thing, I add a frame to the thing. So my frame count would be something I can do. And I'm trying to do this again without other ways. I've done this before in different ways, but it's okay. So for example, if I go private, I'll give you an example. If I go frame count is equal to a number, right? Start it off, I'll initialize it at 0, right? Just to give you an example of how this works. So I could count frames. I could say instead of doing this break, right? I'm only going to check my keyboard controls on, frames that divide by 5 or divide by 10. No, seriously, right? So what I do is, as I come in here in my update function, I'm going to do frame count this dot frame count plus, right? So I'm always going to update the frames, and then I'm going to say, who cares what the frames are going to be, right? And then I'll use the modulus, right? Modulus to say if frame count, this dot frame count, right? Percent, I don't know, 10, 5, let's say 5 is equal to 0, right? No, that's better. And I can do one of these. Check to see if I want to check to see if, check to see if the fire button is compressed. I won't even check until if it's the other frames. That's the trick.
Or 10 altogether.
10 altogether. You just can't see it, right?
Yay.
So this does it, but now it checks less times, right? Okay. So now we have to do the break thing. Let's do the both methods combined. Oh, I'm serious, right? So if my frame count is %5 is equal to 0, right? Only if that's true, and I can keep track of frames here because I'm basically increasing my frame count. Every update is a frame.
Yay.
Oh, it's an easy way of doing it, but okay.
Yay. Yay.
I can do that. Yes, I can do that.
Yay. Yay.
They're 5, right?
Yeah.
So I like your thinking. So you're making the bullets faster. So if I go to the bullet, that's a bullet class now. So I think again, you're building it with me, so you can see this thing, right? So speed of the bullets, let's make the speed 10. Goes really fast. So maybe that's too fast, but we'll see how it goes. Right? Let's see if that works out.
Yay.
Too fast?
Yay.
Well, no, now that's good. That's a good speed. But the thing is, we can change the. I like the speed idea, but I think we have to go back to the game.ts. Not that, sorry, the play.ts and change the percentage to 10. Because now it's too fast. So now every 10 frames. So it's only 6 bullets every second, right? So good. Control the bullets. I'm not checking every frame.
Yay. Yay.
Okay, so we solved that problem. Now, this. I want to get rid of this. I don't like it. I'm saying, how do we do it? Right? So remember, it's in the for loop. Can we use a while loop? Can we use a while loop instead, and where it satisfies the requirements? So while, we haven't fired a bullet, kind of thing. If we fired a bullet, if the bullet, we have something like, inside this little if statement here, right, where the keyboard is firing. So look, we're saying frame count is %10, then we can check controls. We're not going to check controls unless the frame count is the right frame count, right? By the way, this frame count is going to go on forever, right? We have to be careful there too. But let's suppose that this is our solution for now. So frame count getting greater than 10, or is it even number, 10, every 10, we're going to be able to count. And that way, if I inside this if statement, when I'm checking, I can create a temporary variable, as an example, called something like, let's do this here, right? Where I do a let statement, and I say that, fired or bullet fired as an example, it's only temporary, right? Well, if bullet fired is let bullet fired be equal to false, right? Then if bullet fired is equal to false, well, no, and bullet fired is equal to true. No, we don't need to do that. While, what kind of while loop would I make? Instead of a while loop, while, what am I checking? There's no bullet that's being fired. Okay, I can do that. While no bullet is being fired, check. And so while no bullet is being fired, so so what I'm saying is we have another little variable up here, right? And again, we have to, this is stuff we have to refactor, right? These are the things I'm just popping in here. Bullet fired is equal to Boolean, right? Bullet fired, and we'll say is equal to false by default. We have to refactor this later on. All right, so if bullet fired is false, so while not bullet fired, fired. Right, then we'll check this. So don't do it by this, do it but for each bullet. Yes, 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 yes. So I could do a counter. So if bullet fire is not equal to true, I could define a let count equal to 0. Right? Oh, no. Let count is equal to 0 up here. Let count is equal to 0, so number. So I have to have a counter. It's equal to 0. That's how we do it. My mind, I'm sorry, I'm just brainstorming here. And then if this whole thing here, sorry, if bullet counts in flight is true, and fire the bullet, then this underscore bullet fired is equal to true. For each bullet. Because if it's not true, right, then but I need to go to the next count. So it's going to say, la, 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 and then I got to do count plus plus, right? Count plus plus. I'm not going to go to the next one. If the bullet fire is equal to true, who cares? So if it's not in flight, do it. If it is in flight, count. Count plus plus. But that means, okay, let's see what happens. Just saying. Right?
Yay.
I got my first one going. Wait. No.
Yay.
Nice idea. Oh. Nice idea, Tom. This is the way, right? But I can't have my count. I can't have my count number be 0 somehow, right? Because what's happening is my number keeps setting to 0, and I'm only checking the first one. So if the first one is equal to thing, bullet fire is true, it'll stop me from doing this, right? Otherwise, if it's not, then count plus plus. But I'm only doing this inside here, and this count element when it happens here, and I'm setting it to 0 every time, which is not a good thing, which means that I have to have my, how do I set it up again? Again, this requires another method. This requires a separate method of its own. I call the method, one time, right? But this is the kind of idea. I'm trying to think of ways of, while the bullet being fired is not true, then don't do it, but I have to increase the bullet count somehow. I gotta go. That's how you go to the next bullet. Count plus plus, right? But the problem with this one is I can go out of bounds here. I can go out of bounds, right? So let's undo this and go back to the working solution. And we'll find another solution later. Bullet fired.
If you get the current bullet, with which bullet is getting fired at the given time?
Current bullet.
Right?
You could do the current bullet, but then the problem is you need to know what the next bullet is. No.
You know the
Yes, you do. You do. The current bullet index. You're talking about bullet index.
Yeah.
The index of the current bullet, you could go to the next one. But the thing is, what if there's no next one? I have 10 bullets, and I go to bullet 10? No, but I don't know. What if there's no other bullet? I have to check to see. I have to look ahead. And once I look ahead, it's an error.
It's no.
Yeah.
It's no.
Yeah.
Check.
I could.
You can check for all, like we said, stop from 0.
I could do it, but I could do it like a for loop that does it too. Like it's like the same thing, for loop, or I could do a this for in. What it does is for every bullet in bullets. That's what it does. For every bullet in bullets, not for each, different, right? And then and so this allows me to break out because it's not a function anymore. I could have used the return, like you said, right? But but what this does is it breaks the loop, which is what it works for now. Let's leave it as this. No, it won't. It'll break out of the loop. It's just an ugly way of doing it. It's not something we want to do. It's the wrong loop.
Yeah.
It's the wrong. It needs to be a while loop, or it needs to be a like a for each loop, something like that. Like the for end loop is right, but maybe something else, some other kind of functionality that goes in here. All right, so we figured it out. We've done the bullet firing. This will work without a bullet manager, right? Now you can see there's lots of piece parts. And what if, and this is why I want a bullet manager in the future, what if I want to implement the same bullet firing technique at another level? I can't do all this again, right? And that's why we have a bullet manager. Bullet manager should be totally separate from each level, right? There's nothing to do with this, so I don't have to check frame count. I don't have to do any of this stuff. Like all that stuff should be part of the bullet manager, right? And one thing you notice is I'm checking bullets for my collisions. All that collision checking stuff and everything else should be part of the bullet manager, right? I have examples of this other places, but worst case, again, if you can't make this work, it's not that we've increased the code that much. It's a little bit clunky. I don't like it. It's brute force right now. It needs refactoring. It needs a rework, right? We make it work, so it will say made added bullet firing capability. Right, so that's what we did. Here's something we want to do before we go on. And I'll do one more thing before we stop. Then I'll let you guys go, and then I can go home for dinner too. How about that? I know, it's crazy. It's always this way on days like this. One of the things that we can do, I'm bringing back this for a second, in our tsconfig.json file, we have exclude. We have a source map, right? But we also have the ability to do other things. So if I go to comma, press Control Space, I can decide what files get loaded, right? I can say only these files are going to be transpiled. I can also decide if I go here, if I go to out file, right? Just saying, I can define where my out file is. So let's say, as an example, in my folder, just to show you this thing, right? It transpiles everything, yeah, right? No problem. But it also creates an out file. And I want to put it somewhere, for example, under scripts, right? Where it's going to make sense. I'm going to put it under scripts, build, right? So let's see how that works. If I go Control B or Command Shift B for a second, right? Now I have this new build folder, right? So it's just a file, right? And what I want to do is say build.js, right? Let's see if it does it then. And it does give me a file, right? And what I want to do is under build, so builds, and I'll do something like, you know, game.js, right? Or something else like that. If I keep doing this, you can see that it'll build up my directory, right? Here's my game.js. My game.js will have only JavaScript, but everything. I mean, that's everything. Everything, everything, everything. So basically, only one file. Let's get rid of these. So why would I do this? Because now I can uglify it with, uglify means minify. Uglify with something like gulp.js. And I have this little file right here, right? This little file that gets everything. These are all the changes, right? So if you look at the size of the file, if I wanted to go there, I'm just showing you that you can be done. I'm not going to do this right now, so we have no time to show you the complete build. But if I go here and if I look at scripts, builds, and if I go to game.js, it's 39K. That's how big my whole game is. All of MailPilot, everything we added in, all the objects, 39K. That's pretty good, right? But we can make it even smaller, right? Look, even my game map is almost as big, 25K for like the actual source map, right? But my game.js, I can add that in, so I can point under builds game.js. Well, if that's true, to give you a sense of how this works, I could do something like this. So if I go to index.html, all this stuff, right? Just saying. Is it the right thing to do? Don't know. But this is what you can do. Right? Remember, I just have to use this as my manifest. Right? So I can do something like this. I can say, all I care about is scripts build game.js. Right? And if I was to do this, and now let's refresh this page because it needs to do it. Now we have to look and see what it does because it's very important we do this properly. Oh, one thing I can't do is I didn't do those. But it does all of them in order. All right, so all of them according to how I get called. Now, it's the challenge, right? You have to make sure that what you're getting is what you're really getting. Right, so if let's pick the build, console, it says failed to load resource, 404 not found, scripts. Let's build game.js. Did I? Scripts build. Oh, builds. Builds. Oh, one file. Yay. 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 Not a lot of depth. Yay. Yay. It's making it more difficult. Like, for example, the clouds need 3 hits, right? Just saying. Each cloud is a boss, right? So, I mean, we can do that later. But you can see that only one script rules them all. So why? It's leaner. I only do, because also I have to put this out just for those people who are still watching, or they're going to watch one day. One request, so one GET request, right? Instead of multiple GET requests, right? Where you kind of transpile everything into one, right? And then I can use gulp to minify everything to make it even smaller and faster, right? So my game would actually perform better. When I have one file, it's way easier to serve up as a CDN as well. Once I serve it as a CDN, I can use Azure to serve it up as my own CDN, right? So you got to think about that. Now, someone goes back and they've gone to my little 39K file. It's going to work pretty darn good compared to a much bigger set of a bunch of different files that I'm going through. And it's minified, if I minify it, right? I also can minify, just to say, this is something that you should also think about doing in a real life game, all of your assets, all your image assets, so that they're compressed as much as possible, right? So that way that it takes away it removes everything that they can, so it makes them as small as possible, so that the game becomes as tight as you can make it, right? This is truly the right way to do it. So even if you split between files, you can work with all these files for yourself. But then my build, one file. When I go and deploy on the example on GitHub, right? I want to go to GitHub for a second, right? Because GitHub, I don't have any issues left, and I want to move these issues to the next one. So I want to kind of move these, to the next build. So go to milestone. I've got 50% of the stuff done. I'm going to keep working on this one. I'm not going to stop this one. I'm going to do some more over the week. So watch out for some more stuff that I can do, right? And I want to clean up that issue because I don't like it. It's too ugly. It's not good. It's not efficient. It's not lean. And I've been trying to do it lean from the beginning. I'm just trying to do like 2 weeks worth of work in 1 week, which usually we break down into a couple weeks. Even bullet firing like this, there's a couple of steps involved. Creating the bullet, creating the all these things we just did today. Right? Okay, do you guys have any questions while we're here?
Before the JSON file, like config JSON.
Yes.
Why do we have like module there?
Module is the type of module. So, for example, no. Let me explain. tsconfig.json, when it comes to the module type, it's the module type. So I can use system.js as the module type. System.js is another very popular way of doing things. It's the way that the files are split across modules, right? I'm using common.js, right? Which is just a system. So the compiler knows how I'm splitting across different modules, right? In order for me to use more modern package managers and bundlers, sometimes we use system.js, right? And what system.js does is it splits across modules. The way it looks at the modules themselves is a lot more different than common.js, which is just the way it's done, the way it's split among modules, and what the method I'm using for combining and compiling files. That's what it is. My target tells me what I want to compile to, right? And my module is how I'm splitting across files. The way I'm doing it right now that I'm showing you is the common.js method. I'm splitting it up, but the compiler, because of how I did it with module, that's how I'm doing it. And the compiler is interpreting the way I've done it, so it compile everything, transpile everything, and then when it does all of the linkages, so that I can do my my code hinting, it knows how to find all the files in my it creates a reference map, and it's able to find all my files based on the way I'm declaring my module.
Have you currently have any modules with that common.js?
They're all of them. All of them are all the modules I'm using right now. The way I've split across files, they're all common.js. I don't have any that are system.js, and it's either all or nothing. And there's different options. Look at the different options. You have, yes, like for example, I have AMD common.js ES2015. That ES2015 is the ECMAScript, the new ECMAScript version, right, or ES6. None. I don't have any module. And there's also system, which is very common as well. So system, common.js, and like I said, ES2015 is the new modularized way. It tells the compiler how to interpret the modules, how you split them across, and what kind of statements you can use. For example, I can use, in the new ES2015, I can use import statements, right, with modules. And I can't really do this with CommonJS, right? CommonJS doesn't conform to that standard, right?
So for the bullets, instead of having that array, how about if you have just one bullet object and you work with that? What do you think about that?
I mean, what bullet object? Explain.
So like instead of, so like previously when you click spacebar once, it'll fire up like 10 bullets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, still do that.
No.
It isn't.
No, because I've checked how many frames. I'm using frame counting, and I'm dividing the number of frames by 10. And if the number of frames by 10 gives me no remainder, that's the modulus. That's the percent. I'm using the modulus to check to see if my frame count is divided by 10 equally, and if it does, then and only then do I check if my keyboard space is being checked, being pressed, right? So I'm waiting every 10 frames. I'm delaying every 10 frames, right now. So that stops for me like setting all the bullets up at once, like in a big stream, right?
If you press it once, does it fire just one bullet?
One bullet, because of what Aaron was suggesting. So we find a bullet that's not in flight, then we fire that one. And then when we do that, we break. So it gives us a chance to go back and hit the next frame. And the next frame, what we do is we check to see if the next frame is not divided by 10, because it wouldn't be, right? Now we have 10 frames before we can check again, which makes sense. So that means we're waiting 10 frames because we broke out of our loop, and then it gives us the ability to check every 10 frames, right? There's many other ways around that. In fact, now thinking about it, if I can check to see if my frame count is %10, right? And this thing is and it's true, those two things are true, then I fire the bullet. If not, check again, right? So I don't have to do the break. Both those two things are true. So both if it's in flight and the number of bullets that I'm firing is as an example is, but then it won't hit every single one, only one. But then I think it'll still go through the entire loop.
If I were to do like,
You gotta go current next bullet, like that kind of stuff. Like I said, a bullet manager.
if I was like, try to architect the same thing before you made it into an array, I would just make it just one single object, bullet object.
So we only have one firing at the same time, one.
Yeah,
One.
but like it fires.
Then it's gonna reset.
Whenever you press the keyboard, right?
But it won't. So the other way to do it is don't do it what I did. We're resetting, right? So here's the other way to do it. Don't worry about it. Instantiate as many bullets as you want, and push them on. No, instantiate a new bullet object. So that's the other way to do it. So don't even bother. So every time I press the button, instantiate the bullet objects, as many as you want, right? And when you instantiate these bullet objects, right, on the screen, when they go off the screen, right, you're making new bullets, right? Okay, as soon as they go off the screen, kill them. Make sure you destroy the bullet object, right? But if you did that way, the problem with that way is you're going to have a variant amount of display objects on the screen at the same time, and if you don't kill that bullet, right, it's going to add to the number of display objects inside the container, the scene container, which eventually will slow down your game. We'll give it if you last that long, right? So in a larger scenario, if you had like thousands of bullets, right, and then how do you keep a track of each of the bullets? I'm adding a new one. I'm adding a new one. I'm adding a new one, right? If I do it that way, how do I do my collision checking? I got to check for each bullet, right? So how do I keep track? Because I'm pushing a bullet onto the number of bullets, right? So the more bullets I push onto the number of bullets, then what's going to end up happening is I'm going to have to keep adding them and splicing them at the same time, or adding them and removing them. Once they leave the stage, remove them. I don't care about them anymore, right? So I don't have any bullets to check. So I don't have any bullets to check. It's going to keep going. When I start pressing the button, it's going to create a storm of checks, right? Because I have no bullets, right? I press the space bar. Now I have a bullet. And I keep doing it. I have 5 bullets, 10 bullets. And now before I had no bullets, and now I have 10 bullets. And for each of these 10 bullets, I'm going to do checks with all the clouds, right? Before I had no bullets to check. So meanwhile, the clouds were nice and smooth. And with the scenario I'm talking about, you're going to have a whole potentially, I'm not saying you will 100%. You may have a slowdown. It may seem to be the clouds are slowing down when you're pressing the button because you're doing all these checks. where before they were. Now they're always doing the checks. I'm constantly checking to see how many the distance between each cloud, which slows me down, but it's consistently slow, right? So it looks like it's a consistent game speed, right? But if I only check, like I said, I can make a boundary, right? So I can say, don't check before the clouds are below a certain level. If the cloud's not less than I don't know, 3 or greater than 300 pixels, so Y position, don't check if there's a collision with my plane, right? But then again, so everything's going to be fast, fast, fast. When it gets to here, it's going to slow down again because I'm doing all these checks, right?
Last question. So,
yeah.
How do you make it just one get request?
Like I just did?
Yeah. So that's what you did.
Yeah.
All right. Just one file.
Yeah.
You're calling that.
Yeah. The only thing you can do is what you could also do is see your vendor files, which are all these, right? So right now we did these. I just put all these different requests. That's a huge amount of requests. Yeah. So when it starts the game off, all this is going to do is when it starts the game off for the first time, it's going to start way faster. Like the kickoff is going to be faster. Doesn't mean that later on it's going to be faster, but when you compress everything nice and tight, right, then it's going to make the speed of everything load faster when this page loads. The other thing I can do is I can minify. I can combine all these files, compress them into one, or use the CDN because I don't need all these files right now. This is just for testing. When I'm doing development, I want to have all these files, these vendor files here. But the better way to do it is to have the vendor files online. Yeah, so I have nothing to load. It's just on the cloud, right? Because in the real scenario, this will be hosted somewhere, like on Azure or something, right? So
pulling it from there, is it less resource consuming or like less time?
when you do a GET request, you're getting it from me, right? So if I'm serving it from you, right, and if I have to serve it to 5 of you, 10 of you, every single time, right? That means I'm doing 4 GET requests. There's 4 GET requests here. I'm looking at my files and I'm sending them to you right away, right? And this takes time. There's not that many files, but there's like about, I'm talking about from a speed perspective, right? There's about, I don't know, 300K you have to wait for. Yes, so when you're pulling things down, it's 300K. But if you go and download my file from a CDN, on your machine, it's cached.
Yeah, so that that browser would pull it from
your browser, because the CDN says, I already have it. I already have this file, right? You don't have to pull it again. It would be a 304 or a 3, whatever it's called. It's no change, right? So what you're doing is you're not going to pull it back down again because it's cached, right? So because the CDN is the same files, you're serving the same files up, right? So the CDN actually works faster from that perspective. So, and from a lightweight perspective, you wouldn't have to carry all this stuff up on your web server. It's like really small. Like right now, the whole thing is just the biggest weight is all the images and the WAV files, right? Like all those things. Because look, if you think about it, and I like these questions. These are good questions. But if you look at the build, really, what is this? 39K? It's gone up a little bit, right? But the assets, right? Let's say, just go look at images. The images alone, right? Like this is like hundreds of K here. This is where the bottleneck is right here. I want to compress these things as much as possible and make these as small as possible. Because we're looking at like what, a meg or 2 meg worth of images right now, right? And that's not including audio. Audio is another bit. And my fonts look crazy. It's crazy amount, just the font alone is huge, right? So you'd want to be able to compress all this stuff as much as possible, right? And there's ways of doing so, right? With Gulp, you go through and compress it all, right? Everything, images, fonts, whatever. And even that, like the font is nice, but the right way to do it is take that font, convert it to glyphs, right? And minify that. Only use the glyphs that you want in the font. Correct. I wouldn't want that. That's crazy. I would convert this to bitmap font.
Right.
So if I use bitmap fonts, right, then the bitmap fonts can be turned into a sprite sheet. Sprite sheet can be minified. And then, no, I'm saying this is the way to do it, right? So I don't have time with you guys to do that, but that's the right way to do it. There's a lot of stuff you can do by hand to make it really good, right?
You can just remove the letters that you're not using.
Exactly. I don't need these letters. Remove them, right? And then so all I'm doing is using some characters and some stuff. I need lives, like those letters, and I need score, and game over. I got to figure out which ones I need, and I'm only going to use those ones, and the rest of the files I won't even render. Right? So I may not need all the extended character set that most fonts have, right? Like all the symbols and everything else. All those things. I don't need any of those things, right? That's good. That's saving. So any way you can save on the web, it's all around how can I save. Now, look, it loaded pretty fast here, right? MailPilot loaded pretty darn fast. Like if I refresh, it's like not even a second. It's like bam, right? But if you put it on Azure, so if I was to make a, just if you got a second, I'll put it up in Azure. So let's make one. So I'll put up the, actually, it's up there already. MailPilot build is up there, right? But this is the previous version because this is the, we haven't updated it to, we haven't merged everything, right? So MailPilot build, did I do both? Let me go back. Sorry, I just want to make sure this is correct. So the way to check that is to go to the deployment source because it looks at only the master, right? So if I was going to look at publishing, deployment source, right? It should tell you the deployment source of this thing, right? And what the deployment source says. Here's an example of this. Add a cloud object to game, and you can see that Monday the 8th, this is the last time I did it. Is that today? So it failed. So it failed. Try to do a build, right, as an example. So what I need to do is I need to remove, right, disconnect and connect. So if I disconnect my deployment source for a second, see if I can do this. So I disconnect my deployment source and reconnect because I don't have no space on Azure anymore. Azure has really come down in terms of how much space we have, right? So if I want to go back here, and if I go to my deployment source, I don't know if it'll work, but I can choose on GitHub, and I want to choose Centennial. Let's just use the latest version 0.4 of my project, right? So just to show you. So that would be this. And instead of the master branch, I want to use 0.4, right? So you can target whatever version you want online. Press OK. Now, remember that I'm full. So this might fail. This might fail because, yeah, let's give it a sec. There. It worked, right? So now, if I look at it, this is the real speed when it loads up the first time. See? If I start, and if I press spacebar, still works the same way. See that? Just a bit of a thing. It's pretty fast, but remember that I'm also using one source. So I moved to that one source. I already changed that, right? So because of my latest, actually, did I upload that? Maybe I didn't. No, I didn't do this. I didn't do the change yet. I didn't update that tsconfig.json file. You can see the changes, right? No, definitely not. Didn't do any of those things. So if I wanted to do that, say, changed, added a single build file, or change to might be better. Change to single build file, right? So do that and then push. Now it's going to fail. Azure, unfortunately, like I told you guys, she be full, man. She be full, right? Azure does not like me anymore, right? Because of all the stuff I'm doing, it's full. Next semester it will be better. This semester, full. See how it failed? Not because of anything else. We just don't have any room anymore. So for me to do that, I have to disconnect everything. Wait for it to disconnect. And if it happens to you, this is the only way it can work. No. We have to go back, and it keeps all the different builds and all the track of everything that you've done. So you have to go back and put it back again. So GitHub, you know, as an example, choose what it is, so Centennial, and then choose your project, this one, and choose your branch, which we're going to choose this one, and press OK. Like overall, you know, I'm pretty happy with Azure. I can't say anything. Truly, I'm happy with what it does. We are hosting live. All these things are good. I think that, you know, just cutting down the amount they cut down for students like this it's really hard. What was that? Yeah, oh yeah, it's nice and easy to use. And I mean, I think it's worth using, like by far. I think it's really cool to use, right? Okay, so there you go. Let me try that again. Watch. Like less than a second, right? Oh yeah, down here. If you go down here, if you go to network, right? And you can see the, there we go. So 700 milliseconds. Not quite a second, which is good. Still, I think we can improve it. And you can see where you get the load times, right? So Ocean, look at the Ocean.gif. That's huge. These are all the pulls, right? So Atlas, right? 18 milliseconds for that, right? My engine.og, you can see that these are all what's happening here, and the file size, right? But you can see that.
Why is there the gap?
Which one? From here to here?
In the top, yeah.
Oh, from here to here. Well, this is all the stuff that's happening right here. If you look here, right, and if you wanted to see what's going on here, you can do that. You can actually look just in here, right? So I want to see only this first 100 milliseconds. What's going on here? What's happening? If I refresh, right, it's going to show you. Sorry. Right. So then we'll look at this from here to here. How come that's happening? All right. Let's refresh. So this is the problem. So it's not finding a font. That's taking some time. But look at this. Ocean GIF. Just that alone. Like that has to be compressed. The Ocean is massive. It's bigger than any other file, right? So I mean, it's not massive. It just needs to be. It's just the way we do the compression. It takes a lot more time, right? Atlas, that's next, right? 18 milliseconds. Yeah, there is. And by the time you get, remember, it's also the engine that we're using. Azure is not working with the top, the #1, you know, like system in the background, right? If I want to, if I put more power to the background of Azure, it's going to work faster and faster. This is the lowest level of, no, it's not just IIS, it's the lowest VM that I'm using. I can pay for higher performance levels, right? Change what? Hold on a second. Let me just stop recording now. We recorded for a long, long time.